Hey all, welcome to Parker's Reefs. On today's episode, I'm going to walk you through all of the plumbing of my dream reef tank build. Alright, so we're one step closer in this dream reef tank build. Our plumbing is now complete. Not only is it cut and fitted and tested, but it's now glued and it's all in position. We're ready for water. And I believe that we've found a workaround solution to get the cabinetry happening on this in the next week or two, despite Melbourne's COVID-19 lockdown restrictions. We've managed to work out a local installer so we can get some cabinetry on this, and you know that as soon as we get cabinetry on this build, we can then fill it with sand, rock and water and let the cycle begin. But that's to come in the next few weeks. So if you haven't yet, please consider subscribing, because that will make sure that you get a notification when that video comes out so you don't miss all of that action. But the purpose of today's video is to go over the plumbing. Now, if you haven't seen already, I've done an episode on the sump and gone into great detail explaining each section of the sump and how the water flows through there. But the next logical step is the plumbing itself. And I must say I'm super happy with how the plumbing has turned out on this tank. Sanking flow color pipework is just beautiful stuff. It's the range of fittings they have available, the quality of the fittings, the color options of the fittings have just really elevated the plumbing of this from something that you have to have and looks a bit ugly into an absolute feature of this tank. So I figured we may as well start at the back. I'll go through the weir, we'll go through the drains into the sump, and then we'll talk about from the return pumps up into the manifold, through the pipework and into the rear, through the returns into the tank. So let's whip around the back and I'll show you the weir setup. All right, so first cab off the rank, we've got the Shadow V2 overflow from Synergy Reefs. Now, this is all plumbed in. Now, what makes this a little bit tricky in Australia is that the pipe sizing is a little bit unusual. So we've had to go for a 50mm Australian PVC, which fits in, albeit a little bit loose. Insert into here, both the top and bottom, and I'll run you through some of the preparation I had to do to get the main overflow, sorry, the main drain, the half drain and the emergency drain all plumbed in. But the main thing is we use the 50mm PVC. Then we've adapted into a thread so that I can then put onto the Sanking Flow color 40mm from there. So with the light on, you can just see the Australian 50mm in there. Obviously this one here, the short piece with the 90-degree elbow, that's the full siphon. So the water level will always be up around about there, probably just about halfway up the elbow in that that elbow, believe it or not. That's the one that will be fully submerged. This is the one that will be half submerged. So again, the water level will only be about here. And here's the emergency. Should one of both of those get blocked, the water can come up here and go through there. That's deliberately left, this pipe here is deliberately left above the water's level in the sump so that it is nice and noisy and will alert me should there be anything happening in there. We've got these adapters here. We then go into the thread into the Sanking Flow color gray, and then we've got a union for each one, followed by a clip to make sure that these are all nice and sturdy. They're not going anywhere. They then flow into beautiful, these brand new fittings from Sanking, these Crescent Moon. They're a really long, sweeping 90-degree, almost like a mandrel bend. So it just really minimizes restriction. I know it's been popular to use 245s, but these look like they flow even better than 245s, and they just give you that really neat look rather than having multiple fittings all jammed in tightly together. That's pretty much our overflow. We then come through here, we'll jump around back to the front of the tank, and we can check that out there. All right, so once we get past the overflow or the weir at the back, comes down through the first Crescent Moon, we then have another Crescent Moon to bring us back onto that 90-degree. So obviously on our main siphon, the full siphon, we've got a Sanking gate valve here, which gives really nice fine control. So I can dial in the level of the water in the weir perfectly to get that absolutely silent operation. Our emergency overflow in the middle here, again, we still want a nice smooth flow because in the event of something going wrong with these other two, I want that to flow as nicely as possible. So we've got a nice Crescent Moon. It does come down into this section here, but sits a bit higher, so I can hear if it's water's going through there. Last but not least, my half siphon again, Crescent Moon elbow down in here. Now this one, I'll get the pipework up to show you, but all three of these, in fact, our main siphon's got another Crescent Moon to point the water back this way so that we get a really nice smooth flow around here into the filter roller. The emergency's only got a little bit of a kick there just so that we can still hear the water coming out of it. And this one actually kicks on a bit of an angle this way so that we can really start to get that water flowing around the corner here nicely. But they look like they sit pretty nicely. They give a good flow. They route nicely through this beautiful composite board here. This is a wood and plastic composite, which is waterproof, very light, easy to work with, does the trick really nicely. So Dave at my local fish store recommended this product, and he organised to get it all routed and everything, and I think it's come up an absolute treat. So that keeps our 3 main overflows, which you may recall when I had the sump designed, I deliberately had it designed so that these 3 pipes here perfectly aligned with the outlet from the weir so that they have the minimum number of bends as possible. And then the 2 bends that are in there are 2 crescent moons each. So they've got these 2 big sweeping 90-degree bends. Should give minimal restriction so we can get the most out of our overflow. All right, now this is the business end. We've already covered the sump, so the water's gone all the way through the sump. If you want to check out that video, please check it out on my channel. But we've got 2 Wabiz A200 return pumps in here, which I know is absolute overkill, but they are super, super high quality pumps. And with the use of some Senking Flex, they've got this very nice 40mm flexible pipework. It's allowed me to fit them in there with a tap. I've got a Philmac blue handle tap under there on each one because I've got this extra gate valve here. The idea is that there's redundancy there. So whilst one Abiz A200 is really only running my manifold and accessories, and the other one is doing the return to the tank, should something go wrong with one, or I just want to do some maintenance on one of the pumps, I can open up this valve here, which links these 2 together, and then I can turn the tap off down in here to whichever one I'm removing. That way I can continue operation with the tank. If I want to take a week to clean that other pump, I can, or there's going to be a hold up in getting a replacement or whatever it may be, life can continue without having to thrash about and trying to fit up another pump. I've got my redundancy built in. That did make it fairly tight in there, but the Senking Flex did an absolutely awesome job, so I'm really happy with how that turned out. The fact that we've got a tap on each one underneath in there, plus a nice little joiner tap up here is just perfect. And the Flex also is going to remove, not that the Abiz produces really any vibration at all, but should there have been any vibration whatsoever, that Flex is just going to remove that from traveling through all our pipework. That being said, we've got all our pipework nice and solidly clipped as well, so it should eliminate any noises. We'll see how we go though. All right, now this is the business end of the back of the tank. Now, I've got to remember that the tank's currently moved out from the wall. This will normally be up fairly tight to the wall, but it's all happening in around here. Now, we've got our main return line coming out here. That then has a large 40mm pipe which tees off to come up to the return on the right-hand side, but continues right down to the ground in 40mm around an elbow and 40mm across, where we reduce down to 32 for the left-hand side return. Now the idea being we've got a tap on each side, but by keeping 40mm as close as we can for the big, as far as we can for the big turns, and then reducing down to 32, just so we can keep the good pressure and momentum there. But with a tap on each side, we're going to be able to make sure that they're evenly matched. Inside the returns, I've got these nice Senking bulkheads with a slip fitting that goes to a thread into some lock line and a duct bill. Now, the idea of the lock line is it allows me to lift the plumbing right up to the water surface so that I can have the duct bill just breaching the water surface. So in the event of a power outage or I turn the return pumps off, that this is not going to back siphon all the way down. Well, it will all the way down till it breaches the water surface, and then it should pull air in. But with the nice thick bracing here, what I can also do is I could drill a hole in one of the high points of these lock lines, and that would also give me a nice little siphon break without the risk of water squirting outside of the tank. Now, that also is clipped in so that it's all nice and tight. We've got clips down the bottom here, clips up here, got clips there. Everywhere you look on this plumbing, it's all clipped so that nothing's gonna rattle. Everything's nice and tight, right? And that's gonna be important over the next couple of steps where we're moving the tank in and out from the wall. I don't want to have to worry about bumping piping or anything like that. It's all nice and secure. So that's our main return line, right? That's done and dusted. What are all these other pipes? This line coming through here, that's our chiller line out. So it comes from the manifold out down here, goes outside through the insulated soft hosing, goes into the chiller, back from the chiller, back in through, up here, and dumps right in front of the second return pump. That's the pump that then pumps back up to the returns on the tank. So it should give the nice freshest feed of cold water back into the tank. This one here is my quick water change pipe. So you can see we've got this flexible pipe to it here. This pipe here connects to a smaller bit of flexible pipe here. It has a tap here which really won't be accessible, but it's there for now and it'll be pretty much on all the time because we've got another tap on the inside in here. But what it allows me to do is it hooks up to the manifold from the return pump, which allows me to open a tap inside the cabinet and pump water out through this pipe, which again is all nicely clipped, through the wall to the other side where I've got a drain and the laundry. That allows me to do a large water change in a hurry. Now conversely, if you're going to pump water out of the tank quickly, you're going to need to pump it back in the tank quickly, and that's where our other flex line here, which comes onto this part here, which leads straight into the sump, again with a tap, allows me to pump water back into the sump very, very quickly. That's my water out and water in for massive emergency water changes. Two things that I rarely use anymore, but super, super handy to have nonetheless. So we've got our accessory return pump here and our main return pump here. Now the idea is there that the accessory return pump pumps up to this T here, sends some off to the manifold that side, and sends them off to the manifold on this side. Now this one here, this tap here is for my emergency water change out. It connects to the drain, and if I want to open that up, that return pump is going to pump water straight out through the wall and to the drain on the other side. Now, if I need to bring water back into the sump very quickly, that's what this one does here. So it connects to my Onga 412 pump in the back shed, and via remote control, and then opening up this tap, water goes down into the sump to replace it very quickly. So basically I can open this one, drain the water out, completely empty the sump. I can knock the lock line down in the display if I want to siphon even more out of the display. Then I close that up, open this one up, press the button on my remote control, and it'll fill the sump back up with water. Turn on the main return to pump the water back up on the display, wait till the levels are right, turn off the remote control, close that, and we've just done a 50% water change very quickly. Hopefully these things never have to be used, but it's much, much better to have them there ready to go than having an emergency and trying to find hoses and buckets. Everything's all here by tap and remote control. This one here goes out to my chiller. So this goes through the wall down here, out down the bottom to the flex pipe here, which is then insulated through the wall out to the chiller and back from the chiller, which pops in down here. So it comes back into the tank through that section there. That's pretty much this end of the manifold. As you can see, we've got unions in place. There's unions on the sump because it's obviously fairly tight, but we want to make it so that it can be removed should it need to be removed. I'll take you over to the other side to show you the other end of the manifold. All right, this end of the manifold here, again, has got a union and it's all clipped, so it's nice and solid. Not going to get any rattles, but I can also undo the union and pull this section off should I need to replace it, change it, do whatever I need to be. Now, we've got some, we reduce the pipe up, we go from 40 mil there, we go through this one into 32, then we go to 25, then we go down to 20. That way it just keeps the water movement heading right down to the end tap. Will also mean that these first ones here still get a good high flow, high volume level of access to water. Now, each of these taps, I don't exactly know what I'm connecting each of them to yet, but one will go to a calcium reactor. Probably this one will go to calcium reactor. This one will flow back down over into my refugium so I can get that keto tumbling effect. These two here will probably just be spares at this stage, but you know what it's like. These things quickly become used, and it could be something like we might run a GFO reactor here, we might run sulfur reactor, we might run ZO reactor, you name it. We've got a couple of outlets there because these things always come up, you always end up needing them. But main thing is that the cabinetry will fit very snugly over here. All of these taps are nice and easy to turn, particularly after the first time you've opened them. And nice and easy to access. And you can see that we've got this beautiful board here that's been fixed to the stand with titanium bolts so we don't get any rust, and just to give it that really slick look, countersunk titanium bolts. This composite board is waterproof, and it mats up really nicely into the belly pan of the sump so that any sort of water splashes or anything are all going to be contained in here. Then last but not least, we also then will have a drain which goes into the sump, which goes out through the wall. So out through the wall and into the storm water drain there. So should anything go wrong in the sump or in this section of the cabinet, the water's going to land in this belly pan, and the flush mounted drain's going to then take that out to the storm water. All right guys, there you have it. That's the plumbing covered in my dream roof tank build. I know it looks fairly simple here, but there's been an incredible amount of thought and work put into it. I've got to take my hat off to Dave from Deer Park Aquarium. The dude has spent so many hours working on this and making sure it looks as neat as possible, is the most functional bit of plumbing he's ever done. And I have to say, I'm yet to get the bill from Dave, and I'm almost at the stage, I know he watches the videos, so I probably shouldn't say it, but I almost don't care what the bill's going to be, because I could not be happier with the plumbing. It's so neat, so functional. It's going to just do the job perfectly without any dramas. So whilst I'm fairly comfortable doing some of the plumbing, and I did absolutely help out on this one, I know that this tank's going to be around for a good 10, 15 years, maybe 20, and I just want the plumbing to be something that's not going to be a headache in years to come, particularly once all the cabinetry is in place. It just needs to be something that's set and forget, not in the way it's future-proof. I can expand it, I can take bits off, I can remove parts, I can change them. It's just everything I could have asked for. So personally, I think it ticks all the boxes. The Sanking flow color pipework alone now, this part is a little bit more expensive than I first thought, but when you see the number of fittings and pipes and adapters and bits and pieces we had, we ended up spending about $800 on plumbing, on just the pieces themselves. And then, like I said, I've got to get the bill from Dave yet, but there'll be absolutely a good few hours worth of work in coming here and helping me plumb this tank. So it's not a cheap exercise, but realistically, when we're talking the magnitude of a reef tank, that every single component's getting bigger and bigger and bigger, that you just can't overlook something like plumbing. So it is what it is. It couldn't be any better in my opinion. It's just fantastic. I'm going to stop rambling about it now. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you have any questions about the plumbing at all, feel free to pop a comment in the section down below. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. That tells the YouTube algorithm that you thought it was a good video and that you think other reefers should see it. And lastly, if you're yet to subscribe, please consider doing so. It costs you no money at all. It takes 2 seconds of your time. There'll be a little subscribe button down in that corner. Hit that one and hit the bell notification. That'll let you know when my next video comes out. Anyway guys, till next time, stay safe, keep reefing. Bye.